So we're going to go over posture and our first step for today. I would like to start with our posture. So it's really important for us to be able to either find a line or you can find a dot on the ground if you're outside. The best thing is just for me to find this line because that's going to help you be able to see exactly where my ankle bones are going to start. Okay, so when we talk about our posture, we talk about our 5 points of alignment. Okay, that being our ankles, our knees, our hips, our shoulders, and then our head. Okay, so we're going to go through it in that order, talk about our ankles first. Okay, and what I like to think of is finding this line. We want to be able to divide our feet over that line and make our feet at about a 45-degree angle or so. And we definitely don't want to have one foot on the line and one foot not, so we want to find that kind of halfway. We call this body center. Okay, body center means my body is going to be centered over my spot, in this case being this line. Okay, so as I go through that, we have our ankles, now we have our knees. Okay, it's really important, especially when we're out in the heat and on the concrete, we don't want to lock our knees, so we're going to keep them nice and soft, that they appear straight when they're in our marching pants. Okay, from there we go to our hips. Okay, and I'm going to turn to the side. Okay, as we talk about our hips, we want to make sure that our hips aren't back, they're not forward. We want to keep them right in line with our knees, which are going to be in line with our ankles. Okay, turning back to the front. From there, we go to our shoulders. So again, our shoulders should just be nice up, back, and down is usually what I like to think of. That keeps our projection up towards the audience. Okay, and then from there, we find our head. Okay, so I like to think of my 10 degrees up. And this posture is going to be good for percussion, woodwinds, brass, really anyone that's going to be on the field performing, because it's going to keep that chest towards the audience and think projection up. Okay, so from there, depending on your instrument, we like to either have our hands in front of our face. For a wind instrument or percussion, obviously you'll have your snare drum or your bass drum or your tenor drum in front of you. Okay, so that we can get more specific with details kind of further down the line, but as far as general posture goes, that's kind of what we like to think about. Going from there, we can go directly into our first step because we've set up our posture. So my biggest tip is always remind yourself of what that posture feels and looks like. Okay, and always double check. We like to call it our self-assessment of our posture. So double check that everything is in a line, because then that's going to set you up really well to take that first step. Okay, so as we go through our first step, it's really important that we kind of take our self-assessment of our posture. So again, just reminding our ankles, our knees, our hips, our shoulder, and our head. For right now, we're going to let our head fall so that we can actually watch our feet. And we're going to take that first step with that left foot. So let's just take that together. Okay, we're going to take one step forward. And notice as I do that, and I'm going to turn to the side just so you can see that a little bit as well. Okay, as I take that first step, I'm pushing off with my right foot. So whatever my trailing leg is, which in this case, when I'm stepping with my left foot, my right foot's going to be trailing. I'm thinking push and forward momentum as I go forward. Okay, so now let's kind of talk about the details of what that step feels like. Okay, so in our marching technique here, we like to think of our straight legs, which means that we're going to keep all of this in line as we take that first step. Depending on your school and your marching technique, your directors will kind of get into more detail about that. But for as far as straight leg marching goes, here are the kind of details we like to talk about. We're going to think of swinging our motion all from the hip here. Okay, so if I turn to the side and show you that, okay, I'm thinking this nice forward and backward momentum, okay, kind of like a pendulum. And as we take that step forward, we're going to think flexing through that foot, which, again, if I point and I flex, you can kind of see the difference there. We're going to think flex, get those toes up to the sky, and then push off that right foot. Lots to think about. Try to think about at least one thing each time, and I take that step forward. Okay? So as I go through that first step again, I'll show you a couple different angles. We're eventually going to bring our posture back up nice and tall, and step. Okay, noticing as I take that step forward, I'm landing on the back edge of my heel. Okay, I'm not landing flat-footed because this will be inconsistent from person to person. So our goal is to always land on that back edge of the shoe, which again, right here, and get those toes up as high to the sky as possible. And notice my entire leg is straight. I don't have a weird bend. I'm not thinking leading with the knee. I'm thinking from the hip all the way down to the back edge of my heel. Okay?